And David, we appreciate your time. You, first of all, welcome to New York City. It's been a while since we talked. I know we've talked since you moved here, but how are you doing? And we certainly want to get to know your background as well. But how is New York City treating you so far in your first 6 months, 12 months that you've been here?
I'm getting used to it. It's a rainy day today, but I'm getting in the holiday spirit. I know that Rockefeller Center is lighting up the Christmas tree today, so that should be a lot of fun.
That's right. Yeah, I'm going to be there. A lot of people are going to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. But the rain you're used to, and San Francisco rains a lot. Hopefully we won't have too much of a cold winter with a lot of snow for you, because that's not so normal in San Francisco. But just for the audience here, I gave them a little bit of a prelude of who you are, what you do at Microsoft, and just the impact, not only that you have as the global medical director, but chief global medical officer, but also what Microsoft has, given it's the core systems for just about every hospital I know, certainly every health plan, and most life science companies. I think every life science company, frankly. So again, within Microsoft, as this kind of stealth, massive healthcare technology company, tell our community a little bit about what your role is there and what you've been doing over the last couple of years.
Yeah, sure. A little about myself first. My name is David Rhew. I'm the Global Chief Medical Officer for Microsoft. I've been in healthcare technology for the past 25 years. Started my career more as a researcher, focusing on ways that technology could be used to improve health outcomes, access to care, quality care, patient safety, finding ways that we could also improve the experience for both patients and providers. But a large part of my interest then went from research to implementation. And as I started thinking about how can we change behaviors, how can we provide the right information at the right time, that ended up sort of creating an opportunity to develop products and solutions that ultimately today are known as clinical decision support. But back then it was called evidence-based guidelines, and some people loved it and some people did not, but it's now become standard of care. So time has certainly evolved our thinking on that. And we've also seen an evolution in terms of how technology is being deployed. Largely it was based on deployment of an electronic health record. And then we started thinking, boy, we could really look outside of that electronic health record and think about all the sensors that are out there and all the different wearables and smartphones people have. And now we're starting to realize that with all that data that's being captured, we can normalize that. We can apply AI, ML onto it. And we can do things that we couldn't have envisioned before. And that's really the role that Microsoft has been playing, trying to look at how we can use the data in ways that will help further the goals of improved care for patients and improved experiences for providers, finding ways that we can remove waste from the system, improve efficiencies. And across the board, this is not a healthcare provider challenge. This is a healthcare in the broader sense. So it impacts hospitals, health plans, pharma, life science, but we're also starting to see retail be an active part of this. So like a lot of the retailers going into this. And in addition, I think with the pandemic, it's given us a new understanding that it's not just about our traditional healthcare, but it's about public health, and it's about community-based organizations, and it's about inclusivity and about health equity. And so a large part of what I do is I work within our organization to work in collaboration with our partners and our partners across all those different sectors, figuring out ways that technology can help them on their journey towards digital transformation.
That's fantastic. It really is a great way to start out, and just, reminding everybody that ultimately, Microsoft, a key piece of its DNA is public health. And just to remind the audience here, I think it's important to understand that the Microsoft E5 license is HIPAA certified. It is HIPAA qualified. It is HIPAA. So when you start out with an email and you're trying to pass along any kind of patient data or anything like that, and you're platforming it on Microsoft's cloud, once you have an E5 license, you're good. So it's a very fundamental notion that a lot of startups don't understand. And it's fundamental in that the license is $50. It's not going to drive you broke. And it's a nice way that Microsoft empowers startups with very cheap email that has been really secured nicely through a lot of hard work and a lot of years of hard work. And so ultimately, when you take a look at Microsoft as a public health company, it has a nice ring to it, and it does do a lot for small startups that are trying to do big things. But I think a lot of what this is about this year, in terms of the 2022 Digital Health Summit, is around this digital health reset. And we just had Saul Richter, Columbia MBA, Columbia College alum, has his own venture fund out of Philadelphia, Rittenhouse Ventures. And Saul presented a lot of the data that we've seen over the last 4 years, where 2019, we were looking at a good year. 2020 went nuts. 2021 got even bigger. 2022, it's going to be below 2021, but it's going to be above 19, just barely, in terms of investments. And so when you look at just how much money has gone into developing digital health platforms, and when you look at what the future of this is, because now there's a lot of capital that's gone in. By the way, there's a lot of dry capital people need to invest because they raised a lot of money over the last 2 years. They can't just sit on that money. They have to put that into somewhere. What do you think the future of digital health is going to look like? Certainly nationally, globally, and what's Microsoft's role going to be in there?
Yeah, I think it really depends on how we define digital health. And if we use the older, more traditional definitions of digital health, which is, basically capturing data and sending it over to a healthcare provider or an organization so they can dashboard it and look across that, and then spend the time to try to figure it all out, that's not a very strong and powerful value proposition, because it just requires too much effort. Where digital health is going to transform is when we start thinking about how AI makes the data easier to understand and act upon. And then through the digital transformation allows us to be able to coordinate across that more complicated set of players through things that you just mentioned, through email, through text, through video, through other types of mechanisms that integrate into an electronic health record system. So clinical workflow, understanding how the data can be better understood and optimized, looking at new data sets that we haven't even looked at, I'll call unstructured formats, such as voice, text, image, video. This is where the future of digital health lies. It lies in the fact that we have so much opportunity to pull these different data sets together, apply the AI on top of it, and then act upon it. And so what I think we started seeing early on with digital health was the promise of some data that we could use to be able to act upon it. But now what we're recognizing is that, hey, it's not just about your steps and your heart rate. It's about how can that information in collaboration with other types of very disease-specific aspects, can allow us to become much more proactive, identify indices of risk so that we can know who needs earlier, more aggressive interventions. So this is really where it's going to head towards. So I'm really bullish on it. I do think that there's a little bit of work that needs to be done. We can't use the old models. It's got to be upgraded to things that will be highly relevant for the clinical workflow.
That's really well stated. Yeah, I think that when you look at the clinical workflow, it's already convoluted enough. Clinicians today, physicians are using electronic health records that are keyboard only, no swipe, no voice for the most part. 95% of them, since most of the ones that are most widely used are using kind of second generation code like MUMPS and COBOL and Fortran. And so I know it's ridiculous, but that's where we are. Talk about an industry ready for disruption, right? And so then you start looking at, okay, so they're on a keyboard, they're not voice texting, and they're not able to swipe. And then you start looking at these needs for any ancillary options, which is why we saw a lot of virtual health plans or virtual health platforms from cell phones and from iPads, develop as a way to supplement electronic health records with very new code, Python, whatever it might be, to ensure that there is voice and there is swipe that can be done in a much more efficient way for clinicians around the world, but especially around the US. But we do have some good questions coming in from the audience as well. And there is certainly, and from LinkedIn, there is a question around the Microsoft's ability to embed with electronic health records. Is there a use case that is out there where you have a really nice example of where Microsoft was able to help a hospital system or a health plan or a life science company with one of its platforms to extend their reach into digital health?
Yeah, so maybe I'll start with how Microsoft began its journey around EHR integration. A large part of it was around the fact that we were building a platform that helps support storage, compute. We built capabilities about it. We leverage FHIR and a variety of different open APIs and standards that are being actively used and recommended. But where we really needed to have deeper integration into the EHR, these are things that over many years, other organizations have accomplished. And one of those organizations is Nuance. And so many people think of the recent acquisition, I guess not so recent, the Microsoft acquisition of Nuance as being really based on the AI. And that's a huge part of it. But the other piece is the fact that Nuance is deeply embedded into the clinical workflows within all the major EHRs. And so a great example would be, as we started thinking about artificial intelligence to improve that clinician experience using ambient clinical, which is essentially a conversation that the clinician has with the patient, captured from voice to text, converted that into formats that are understandable, so mapped on the back ends to the standardized terminologies, organized into concepts, which can then be organized into the clinical progress notes, which are integrated into the medical record. And it's that last piece of bringing it into the clinical record, which is where Nuance had that capability already. And so that's a great example, because what we demonstrated was that, yeah, we can convert this into a note, but by having that seamless integration to the EHR, we've been able to demonstrate we can reduce the amount of time required for a clinician to document in the EHR by well over 50%. It dramatically impacts the clinician burnout issues. It improves patient satisfaction. It even improves documentation to the point where 40% of the time you get an increase of 40% for first-time prior auths. And largely because, if you're a busy clinician, you're just trying to get through your day. You're not putting all the details in there, and you're going to eventually get bounced back, saying, well, we need more information on this. But now we have the opportunity to be able to create comprehensive documentation, seamless, and it's something that is going to save people a lot of time.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, and that's where it makes a ton of sense. The Nuance acquisition was brilliant, and it just shows, again, how deeply embedded Microsoft is with hospitals and health plans because of all the different machine learning and voice to text and NLP platforms we studied. Nuance is by far the best. I mean, it is just the 800-pound gorilla for healthcare providers, for any physician. So that's just amazing. So, we're winding down. We've got a couple of minutes left. I would love to hear your end of the year 2022 words of wisdom that you can share with our audience here, and then that'll be on our YouTube channel afterwards, about what you're seeing in digital health and what you'd recommend the startup community, the enterprise purchasing community, and the investment community do for the rest of this year, and then obviously in preparation for what you're seeing coming down the pipeline in 23.
Yeah, so I'm going to first start with a comment that I think most of us are starting to recognize, that the goal for digital health is essentially to become deeply integrated into the clinical workflows, so that we end up having digital health tools and use them just in the same way that we use any other type of tool, like a stethoscope, ultrasound. Digital health should be part of our armamentarium for how we address unique issues. If it's about improving access to care, we've got telehealth services, we've got remote patient monitoring, we've got a series of AI tools that can allow us to become much more efficient in how we are engaging for individuals outside. And that also then allows us to be able to elevate our game in terms of what we can do to help even non-physicians and other allied health professionals become performing at the top of their license. So this is a huge opportunity that we can use the digital health. But the thing that we're recognizing is that as we start thinking about AI as the means to be able to improve and raise the bar for all of digital health, AI has to also be inclusive. It has to be free of bias. It has to be something that's transparent. And so there's a whole series of other things that we haven't yet explored that we need to start thinking about as we go down this path, not just about getting it FDA cleared and deploying it, but now thinking about, is there a process for how we would actually govern this? Make sure that it's actually deployed properly. What are the outcomes? Are these things that we are actually seeing to be beneficial, harmful, as expected? And that's going to be a new chapter for us as we think about the next generation of digital health. It's going to be inclusive. It needs to be, we need to address all the factors that relate to how people can gain access to digital tools, such as affordable broadband, ways that we can then leverage digital training. It needs to be something that is easy to use and easy to understand, not something that people can view as, maybe for other folks, but really everyone can use it. Huge value. It's got to be integrated to clinical workflow. It's got to save clinicians time. And that's going to be one of the key factors. If we don't save the clinicians time, it's not going to get used. So as we do with all our other tools that we build in, We find that there's huge value, but we've also got to find ways to make it used in a seamless way by both patients and clinicians, and then ultimately get it paid for.
That sounds good. No, it really does. It sounds really important to understand, and it drives back to empathy and just having an understanding from an empathetic standpoint of what clinicians are going through. They're already stressed out from the pandemic. A lot of them have resigned or just quit. So there's a shortage now, and we're looking now at a deeper residue of now just general frustration. So you're absolutely right, David. That's a great comment. And again, thank you for joining today. Can't thank you enough for the time and generosity you've always had with the Columbia Digital Health Program, the seminars, the symposia, and the summit. And looking forward to catching you. Are you going to be at JP Morgan?
I will, yes. I'll see you and others there. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, please do. We'll send you the invite to the Columbia Business School alumni cocktail party. And again, anyone who's listening to the program, do reach out to me if you are going to be in San Francisco at JP Morgan Healthcare on January 9th through the 11th. Would love to connect with you there. In the meantime, thank you very much, David, and have a great holidays. Have a great New Year. Take care.
Thank you. Happy holidays to everybody.
That's super. And you know, I think when we look at the digital health reset, what seems to be coming through as a theme for all of our guests is that there is a tremendously complex and very unique formula that is this this switchback, the swing back, if you will, to a more leveled off and a normalized, not even normal, but above normal, but not the hyperspend that we were at in 2020, 2021. And listening to what David's talking about in terms of the large enterprises where Microsoft is most prevalent, really the dominant player for health plans, hospitals, life science companies as the main office systems that they use, it really is around these abilities to bring in AI and machine learning to help people save money, whether it's the physicians that are using them or whether it's the executives that are using them, the ability to leverage some of what is coming through from Nuance or other technologies to make everyone, to really allow people to work at the, you know, kind of like what Bill Gates wrote in his book in 2002, Business at the Speed of Thought, this idea that once we start moving into a digital platform, how can we actually accelerate our ability to process business transactions, work transactions through computers and various types of machine learning, et cetera.